Stop for a moment and stay here. Not because you are forced to, but because something inside you already paused before your hand did. You felt it. A quiet pull. A sense that this moment is heavier than the others. That feeling is not random. It is awareness returning after a long time of noise. You have been moving forward on autopilot for longer than you realize. Doing what needs to be done. Handling what is in front of you. Carrying responsibility without stopping to ask how it is shaping you. Right now this pause matters. Because pauses like this do not arrive often. They appear when something underneath your life is beginning to shift. Even if nothing outside looks different yet. You may feel curiosity mixed with resistance. A part of you wants to listen. Another part wants to move on quickly and stay busy. That tension is important. It tells you that you are near insight. Near a moment where understanding could change how you move next. You did not land here by accident. You did not stop here out of boredom. Something in you recognized a signal. A moment asking you to be present instead of distracted. You have been patient for a long time. Waiting through delays. Waiting through silence. Waiting through situations that felt like they should have progressed but did not. That waiting shaped you. It taught you endurance. It taught you restraint. Sometimes it taught you doubt. You questioned whether effort was still worth it. Whether timing would ever align. But waiting does not mean nothing was happening. Often it means preparation was taking place quietly. Out of sight. Right now something is loosening. A pattern that repeated itself is beginning to soften. A situation you thought was fixed is becoming flexible again. This kind of change does not arrive loudly. It arrives as awareness. As a choice to stay instead of rushing away. You may notice physical sensations as you remain here. A warmth in your chest. A release in your shoulders. A heaviness easing slightly. These are not random. They are signs that your system is settling instead of bracing. You have spent a lot of time managing. Adjusting. Smoothing things over. Holding yourself together so others would not feel uncomfortable. Very rarely do you stop and ask what you need. This moment invites that honesty. There is something ahead of you that requires clarity. A decision. A conversation. A step that affects more than just today. It may involve your work. Your finances. Your reputation. Or the way your family sees you. You already know what it is. Even if you avoid naming it directly. You feel it when things go quiet. You feel it when distractions fade. That is why this pause matters. Because clarity does not shout. It waits. Somewhere in your past there is a person or situation that still influences how you choose. Not because it controls you now. But because it taught you how to protect yourself then. That protection once helped you survive. But now it may be limiting you. You are starting to see that. And seeing it is enough to begin change. You do not need confrontation. You do not need explanation. You need understanding. Understanding shifts direction gently but firmly. You may feel resistance as you listen. Thoughts telling you this is not important. Thoughts telling you to move on. That resistance appears when attention could lead to change. Stay anyway. You deserve moments of presence that are not rushed. Not performative. Not for approval. You deserve to understand where you are. And where you are going. Something ahead of you has been delayed. Not because you failed. But because timing matters more than speed. You are entering a phase where your choices carry more weight. Where what you say yes to, and what you step away from, begins to shape the next chapter clearly. That can feel heavy. But it is also empowering. You are not powerless here. You are aware. Awareness is the beginning of every meaningful shift. Let yourself breathe into that. Let yourself feel grounded instead of hurried. You do not need to solve everything right now. You only need to stay present long enough to recognize something important. You are not behind. You are not invisible. You are exactly where understanding becomes possible. This moment is not about pressure. It is about permission. Permission to stop ignoring your inner signals. Permission to take yourself seriously. Permission to believe that progress can happen quietly before it becomes visible. Stay with this feeling a little longer. Let it settle. Something meaningful is unfolding. And your attention is part of how it takes shape. You are doing the right thing by staying. Even if part of you feels restless. Even if part of you wants to move on quickly. Staying is already changing how this moment works on you. You may notice that your breathing has slowed without effort. That your thoughts are no longer racing as fast. This is not accidental. This is what happens when you stop fighting your own awareness. For a long time you have been responding to life instead of listening to it. Reacting to demands. Adjusting to expectations. Carrying roles that required strength but not honesty. You became good at surviving. At functioning. At doing what was necessary. But survival is not the same as alignment. And right now alignment is quietly becoming possible. You may feel a subtle emotional weight rising. Not fear. Not sadness. Something closer to recognition. As if you are realizing how much you have carried alone. How often you put your needs last to keep everything else steady. That realization is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to free you. Because once you see it clearly, you can choose differently. There is a sense of timing around this moment. As if things could not have landed earlier. As if you needed to grow into this awareness before it could matter. You have been building resilience without noticing it. Each delay. Each setback. Each unanswered effort added something to you. Depth. Patience. Discernment. Now those qualities are becoming useful in a new way. You are entering a phase where impulse matters less than clarity. Where reaction matters less than intention. That is a shift worth honoring. Somewhere ahead of you is a moment where you will be asked to decide. Not under pressure. Not in chaos. but with a surprising sense of calm. That calm will come from this awareness you are practicing now. You may feel the urge to check your phone, to look away, to distract yourself. That urge appears when something meaningful is settling in. Notice it without obeying it. You are allowed to stay present. You are allowed to take this moment seriously. You are allowed to trust that not everything important needs to be loud. Some changes begin quietly and reshape everything over time. You do not need to rush toward answers. You need to let understanding complete its work. As you stay here, you may feel more grounded in your body, more aware of where you are. That grounding is important. It means you are no longer drifting through the moment. You are here, fully. And being fully present is enough to begin movement. This pause is not slowing you down. It is aligning you. And alignment makes the next step clearer when it arrives, and as you remain with it, you may begin to understand why this pause feels different from others. It is not asking you to escape your life. It is asking you to see it clearly, without distortion, without rushing to conclusions, without minimizing what you feel. You have been telling yourself for a long time that you will rest later. That clarity will come later. That understanding can wait. But moments like this do not wait forever. They appear when you are ready to notice them. You are noticing now. That matters. You may sense a quiet confidence forming underneath the uncertainty. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just steady. That steadiness comes from realizing you are not as lost as you once believed. You were gathering information, learning yourself, testing limits, building discernment through experience. Even the moments that felt like mistakes were teaching you something precise. You are beginning to trust that. And trust changes how you stand in your own life. You no longer feel the same urgency to prove yourself, or to rush outcomes, or to chase validation. That shift is subtle but powerful. It means your decisions will soon come from alignment instead of pressure. You may feel a sense of relief mixed with responsibility. Relief because you see more clearly. Responsibility because clarity asks you to act honestly when the time comes. You do not need to decide anything right now. You only need to stay aware long enough to recognize what no longer fits. What drains you? What pulls you away from yourself? That recognition is already happening. Quietly. Gently. You may notice that some old worries feel less convincing than before. That some fears lose their urgency when you look at them directly. This is not avoidance. This is perspective. You are learning to observe instead of react. And observation gives you choice. Choice is where change begins. You are closer to a new chapter than you think. Not because something dramatic is about to happen, but because you are seeing yourself differently. And when self-perception changes, direction follows. Stay with this awareness a little longer. Let it anchor. Let it become familiar. You are not interrupting your life by pausing here. You are aligning with it. And that alignment will carry forward even after this moment ends. You may notice now that the urgency you usually feel to move on has softened. Not disappeared. Just quieted enough to listen. That is important. Because urgency often hides uncertainty. And calm reveals truth. You are beginning to feel the difference. For a long time you have been responding to pressure instead of direction. Doing what felt necessary instead of what felt aligned. That kept you moving. But it did not always keep you centered. This moment is returning you to center. Gently. Without force. You may sense that some paths you were considering no longer feel right. Not because they are wrong. But because they belong to an older version of you. A version that needed safety more than growth. You honored that version. You survived because of it. But you are not meant to stay there. Growth asks for a different posture. A different level of honesty. You are capable of that now. You would not be feeling this awareness if you were not. There is a quiet readiness settling in. A sense that when the next opportunity or challenge appears you will meet it differently. With more clarity. With less self-doubt. That readiness did not come from rushing. It came from pausing. From letting understanding form without pressure. You may feel a subtle resolve taking shape. Not a promise. Not a plan. Just a knowing that you will not ignore yourself the same way again. That knowing matters. It will guide your choices more than motivation ever could. Stay with this feeling a moment longer. Let it anchor into memory. Because you will return to it later. In a conversation. In a decision. In a moment where you are tempted to fall back into old patterns. This awareness will remind you that you have already seen another way. And once something is seen clearly, it cannot be unseen, and as you stay with it a little longer you may realize how unfamiliar it feels to choose awareness over urgency. You are used to moving. Fixing. Deciding quickly. Carrying momentum even when it costs you clarity. This pause is teaching you something different. It is showing you that not every important shift requires force. Some require honesty. You are becoming more honest with yourself right now. About what you want. About what drains you. About what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. That honesty may feel uncomfortable at first. Because it removes excuses. It removes noise. It removes the ability to blame timing alone. But it also gives you something stronger. Choice. You are beginning to see where you still give energy to things that do not give back. Where you stay out of habit instead of intention. Where you wait for permission that was never required. This realization does not mean you failed. It means you grew. Growth always changes perspective. And perspective changes direction. You may feel a quiet determination forming. Not the loud kind that announces itself. The steady kind that holds. That determination will show itself later in small decisions. In boundaries you keep. In conversations you approach differently. In opportunities you choose not to chase. You are learning that saying no to what misaligns is as powerful as saying yes to what fits. That understanding is settling now. Gently. Without pressure. You do not need to act on it immediately. Awareness is doing its work. It will surface again when timing asks for movement. For now, staying present is enough. You are not wasting time here. You are reclaiming it. This moment is becoming part of how you move forward. Quietly. Clearly. With intention, and as you continue to stay with this moment, you may begin to sense how your attention itself is reshaping what you feel. Attention has weight. Where you place it changes how your inner world organizes. For a long time your attention has been scattered across obligations and expectations and unfinished thoughts. That scattering created a constant low-level tension you learned to live with. Now as you remain present, that tension has space to release. Slowly. Naturally. You may notice that your thoughts are no longer demanding answers right away. They are lining up instead of colliding. That is not something you forced. It happened because you allowed stillness. You allowed yourself to be here without an agenda. That is rare for you. And that rarity is meaningful. It tells you something important about how you usually move through life. You are often ahead of yourself. Planning. Anticipating. Preparing for what might happen next. That habit protected you once. It kept you alert. It kept you safe. But it also kept you from fully arriving in the present. This moment is teaching you that arrival is possible. That you can be here without losing control. That nothing collapses when you stop rushing. In fact, something stabilizes. You may feel a sense of grounding in your body. Your feet feeling heavier. Your posture adjusting slightly. These are signs that your system is settling into the present instead of scanning for threats. You are not in danger here. You are not falling behind. You are aligning. And alignment feels different from urgency. It feels quieter. More honest. Less performative. You may begin to reflect on choices you made in the past with a new lens. Not judgment. Understanding. You can see now why you chose what you chose. Why you stayed. Why you waited. Why you moved on when you did. That understanding softens self-criticism. It replaces it with compassion. Compassion for the version of you that did the best it could with what it knew at the time. That compassion matters. Because you cannot move forward clearly while punishing your past self. You are learning to carry your history without letting it steer you unconsciously. That is a shift in authority. You are taking your own experience seriously. You are no longer dismissing your signals as inconvenient. You are listening. And listening changes the relationship you have with yourself. As this awareness deepens, you may notice certain desires rising to the surface. Not impulsive wants. But quiet longings. For ease. For honesty. For a sense of direction that feels internally consistent. These longings have been present for a while. But they were easy to ignore when you stayed busy. Now they are visible. And visibility brings responsibility. Not pressure. Responsibility to yourself. To honor what you see instead of pretending it is not there. You do not need to act on every insight immediately. Some insights need time to integrate. They need to settle into your daily choices gradually. You are allowed that pace. You are allowed to move in a way that feels sustainable instead of dramatic. There is a difference between change that burns out quickly and change that holds. You are learning the latter. You may feel moments of doubt rising as you listen. Questions about whether this awareness will last. Whether you will forget it once life pulls you back into motion. Doubt is normal. It does not mean this moment is fragile. It means your mind is used to certainty arriving through force instead of presence. Trust builds differently. It builds through repetition. Through small confirmations. Through moments like this that you return to again and again. This awareness is not a single event. It is a practice you are beginning. And practices strengthen over time. You may also notice a subtle shift in how you relate to the idea of control. You have been trying to control outcomes because uncertainty felt unsafe. But as you stay present, you realize that control is not the same as stability. Stability comes from knowing you can respond. Knowing you can adapt. Knowing you can listen and adjust. That realization brings a quiet confidence. Not arrogance. Not bravado. Confidence rooted in self-trust. You are beginning to trust that you will recognize what matters when it appears. That you will feel the difference between alignment and pressure. That trust reduces the need to constantly anticipate every possible outcome. You can allow life to meet you halfway. You may feel a sense of spaciousness opening inside. As if there is more room to breathe. More room to consider options without panic. That spaciousness is valuable. It is where creativity and clarity coexist. You do not need to fill it immediately. Let it remain open. Let it show you that not every moment needs to be crowded with effort. Some moments are meant to be held gently. You are also becoming more aware of your boundaries. Of where your energy naturally wants to flow and where it resists. Resistance is information. It does not always mean stop. Sometimes it means adjust. You are learning to interpret that information instead of overriding it. That skill will serve you well in the coming days. Because opportunities and challenges will still appear. Life will not pause forever. But you will meet it differently. With more discernment. With less self-abandonment. You may notice that your inner dialogue has softened. That the voice pushing you to hurry has lost some authority. In its place is a quieter voice asking you to check in. To ask what aligns. To ask what is necessary. That voice is not weak. It is wise. It has been there all along. It simply did not shout. You are learning to hear it now. This moment is also reminding you that you do not have to earn rest through exhaustion. You do not have to justify pauses through burnout. You can choose presence without reaching a breaking point. That choice is an act of self-respect. And self-respect changes how others relate to you as well. It subtly shifts dynamics. It influences what you tolerate. What you pursue. What you release. You may feel a sense of readiness forming that is not tied to a specific action. Readiness to listen. Readiness to respond honestly. Readiness to move when movement feels right instead of when pressure demands it. That readiness is enough for now. You do not need a plan. You need awareness. Awareness will guide the plan when the time comes. As this moment continues to settle, you may feel gratitude emerging. Not forced. Not dramatic. Simple appreciation for the fact that you noticed. That you stayed. That you allowed yourself this space. That gratitude anchors the awareness deeper. It makes it easier to return to later. When things speed up again. When noise returns. You will remember this feeling. The steadiness. The clarity. The sense of being aligned with yourself. And that memory will help you pause again when needed. This moment is becoming a reference point. A reminder that you can slow down without losing momentum. That you can be present without falling behind. That you can choose awareness as a way of moving forward. Let that settle. Let it integrate. You are not finished here. You are beginning.